He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. All he knew was that she looked scared. And that was enough. It was a cold morning in downtown Seattle, the kind that made the city's glass towers look like gray ghosts hiding in the mist. Ethan Cole had just dropped his 8-year-old daughter Lily at school. Then he walked to his usual little coffee shop, a cozy corner cafe where the smell of espresso and fresh pastries gave him comfort every day. Life had been quiet and simple for Ethan since his wife passed away 3 years ago. Work home, Lily. Repeat. That was his world now. He liked it simple. Or at least, he told himself he did. But that morning, his simple life shattered. She was sitting just 2 tables away. A woman in her early 30s, wrapped in a long beige coat. Her eyes were restless, like she was searching for a way out of something invisible. A man stood in front of her, his voice sharp and full of anger. "You think you can just walk away from me?" he hissed. Ethan's hand tightened around his coffee cup. He hated confrontation. He had enough battles at home and at work. But when he saw the woman flinch, something inside him snapped. He stood up, walked over, and said calmly, "She asked you to leave her alone." The man turned to him, his jaw tight. "Mind your own business," he snapped. Ethan's voice was steady, firm. "My business is making sure people around me are safe." The cafe went silent. The man muttered something under his breath, then stormed out. The woman stayed frozen for a moment, her hands trembling around her coffee cup. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan shrugged. Awkward. "No one deserves to be yelled at like that," he said. She smiled faintly, a small flicker of warmth through her fear. He didn't ask her name. He didn't ask what had happened. He just nodded and went back to his seat. Little did he know, this small act of courage would change his life forever. Her name was Isabella Hart, and she was a billionaire. Not the kind splashed across magazines, smiling on yachts or at endless parties. She had built her fortune quietly, creating a chain of ethical coffee companies to help struggling farmers. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was sitting in a cafe she didn't own, trying to disappear from her own world. The man who had confronted her was her ex-fiancé, a corporate shark who tried to control every part of her life from her wardrobe to her business decisions. Breaking off the engagement had unleashed chaos. Reporters, lawyers, whispers. She had escaped to this little cafe just to breathe. And then a stranger had stood up for her. She watched him leave. His hands were rough, his movements simple. He looked tired, but kind, grounded, real in her world. Everything felt bought, fake, borrowed. But him. He felt real. A week later, fate crossed their paths again. Ethan was running late to pick up Lily. Rain poured down. His car had broken down, and he had taken the bus to work. By the time he reached the cafe to grab takeout for Lily, he was drenched. And there she was, Isabella sitting by the window, laptop open. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. "Hey," she said softly. "You're the man who saved me from a disaster." He smiled. "Just doing what anyone should," he said. "Not everyone would," she replied, then hesitated. "Sit with me. I owe you a coffee." He almost said no. He didn't have time for strangers. But something in her voice, calm and warm, made him pause. That Saturday, they talked. About little things at first. He told her he worked as a mechanic. She told him she consulted for coffee companies. She didn't say she owned them. He talked about Lily, about how hard being a single dad could be, but how she gave him a reason to keep going. Isabella listened. Really listened. Her world had been filled with people who wanted something from her, her name, her money, her power. Ethan wanted nothing. He didn't even ask her last name when he left. She found herself watching the door long after he was gone. Days turned into weeks. They started meeting more, always at the cafe. She brought Lily treats, laughed at her jokes, helped with school projects. Ethan found himself smiling more than he had in years. There was something effortless about Isabella, like she carried sunlight in her voice. Then the truth slipped out. Ethan had just finished a long shift when a coworker ran in, waving a magazine. "Dude," he said, "that woman you've been hanging out with? She's on the cover." Ethan froze. Isabella Hart, billionaire entrepreneur. The laughter, the long talks, the quiet evenings. Suddenly, it felt unreal. He didn't text her that night, or the next. When she came to the cafe and found him gone, her chest tightened with a fear she hadn't felt in years. Fear of losing someone who saw her for who she really was. She found him outside Lily's school 2 days later, waiting under a broken umbrella. "You lied to me," he said quietly. "I didn't," she replied. "I just didn't tell you everything. You could have? I don't belong in your world." Her voice trembled. "And what world is that?" "One where people pretend to care, Ethan. The only time I felt real was with you and your daughter. You treated me like a person, not a headline." For a long moment, rain fell between them. Then Lily ran up, tugging his sleeve. "Daddy," she came. Ethan looked down at his daughter's smiling face. Something inside him opened. Maybe he didn't belong in her world, but maybe she wanted to belong in his. Months later, the cafe that was once just a stop in their routine became something more. Isabella quietly invested in it, helping it grow into a community hub. Families found warmth, affordable coffee, and kindness. Ethan managed it with Lily always helping behind the counter. And sometimes, when the last customer left, Isabella would sit across from him, brushing her hand against his. "You never knew who I was," she whispered. "But you saw me anyway." He smiled softly. Maybe that's how love is supposed to start, not seeing what the world tells you, but what your heart does. Outside, the city lights flickered through the rain, and for the first time in years, both of them felt finally home.